Today on Adoptions from the Heart TV, we are going to be sitting down with Meredith and talking a little bit about the experience of a birth parent in the hospital. So oftentimes people wonder about the hospital experience and how we as social workers can be proper advocates for both the birth parent and the adoptive parent. So tell me a little bit about your experience of being a social worker when doing a placement.
When doing a placement and I'm going into the hospital, I'm this birth parent's advocate because I'm usually the birth parent social worker, and the adoptive parents come either from our state or a different state. So it's very hard as a social worker to balance both. Right. A lot of times I say the adoptive parents, they either have themselves or their partner or a support system. With birth parents, sometimes they're alone or sometimes they're together and they need that extra support person. So as the social worker, I tend to be a little bit more advocating and be there for the birth parents during the hospital experience, because the adoptive parents always have their partner or their family member to help them through that support. The hospital experience is very difficult for both the adoptive parents and the birth parents. So we try to be there as social workers to advocate in between both.
Yeah, I think the juggling of both can sometimes get a little difficult.
Definitely overwhelming, because we want to make sure everybody's happy and everybody is comfortable and everybody's getting the experience that they both need.
Yeah, and I think for the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish, I think the birth parent social worker can handle logistical questions from the adoptive parent side, but anytime an adoptive parent is really feeling frustrated or just needs to vent, that's when they should step out and call their social worker so that they can properly feel like they're being serviced.
Absolutely, I agree with you, because at times, we're there as the birth parent social worker, but of course, if there is a moment in time where the adoptive parents need to step out with us, we would always be there for them, but that is time where you step out and you have that direct contact with your own social worker.
Absolutely. I don't know about you, Meredith, but I've had many experiences where birth parents specifically did not have any support whatsoever. I remember a few years into starting here, and I was the only support person that a birth mom had in labor and delivery. And I clearly remember being in the labor and delivery room, holding up her leg, telling her she should push, she could do it, and her crying and just saying, I can't do it. And I'm like, you can do it. And she popped that baby out, and everyone's happy and crying, but I just kept thinking to myself, I just met this girl a month ago, and I'm in this room with her, supporting her. And ultimately everything was fine, but it's just a reminder for adoptive parents to realize that they don't always have the support, and we have to make sure we're really there to advocate for them and help coordinate things with staff and things. So
I also had that experience too. I've also been in labor and delivery with, it was actually my first birth parent ever, and we still keep in touch till this day, many years later. But yes, it is important to be there for your birth parent and let them know that we are their rock, we are their person. And I always tell my birth parents, I'm your person today. I'm going to be your person before and afterwards and years to come. That is a huge philosophy with Adoptions from the Heart. We are just not there for the time that you're going to make an adoption plan for your baby. We are there years after. And I have so many birth parents that can attest to that, as well as I know you do as well. But that's very important, because if an adoptive parent is feeling that they're not getting what they need at the hospital, we are there for the birth parent, because they do need that support, And I often sometimes say, somebody's happiness is someone's sadness, and someone's sadness is someone's happiness. And it's really hard as a social worker sometimes to balance that, because we're human too, And, and I'm sure as you have, you've cried with your birth parents, you've laughed with your birth parents, but they just need to know that we're their person.
Yeah, and I think plans change sometimes.
Absolutely.
Right? Sometimes a birth parent will sit down with you and say, this is what I want to happen. Baby comes, and then all emotions go high, and then we have to just kind of rework things, and making sure adoptive parents are flexible, open-minded to that change is really important.
And we always tell our adoptive parents and our birth parents as well, everything changes after a baby's born. That doesn't mean that the birth parents are going to choose to parent or things are going to go different with openness. It just means that things change, because now it's not a fantasy, it's a reality. So now we just really need to work through that reality with the whole entire triad.
Absolutely.
Good.
Thanks.
You're welcome.